Here's a Beyond the Pitch podcast quick hit from the WVSA Digital Network.
So one of the first, and I think one of the ones that we are most well aware of, is a depressed mood. And what I mean by depressed mood is that could be a sense of like sadness. I think that's what we typically think of, but it could also be a sense of like emptiness or hopelessness. And especially if we're talking about like young adults and adolescents, that could even be irritability or anger, because those tend to, especially in the sport environment, to be a little bit more acceptable behaviors. Sometimes acceptable emotions. Sometimes what it is that depression looks like is actually irritability or anger, but most commonly it's sadness or emptiness or hopelessness. One of the other really common ones that lets us know it's depression is just a loss of interest or a loss of pleasure. So things that used to be really enjoyable are suddenly not. This gets complicated in an athletics environment where maybe it's been kind of recreational in nature and now all of a sudden it's elite, whether that's going from high school to collegiate or whether that's going to professional or whatever it is, where it's kind of this element of, oh, sport is a job now. We kind of have to tease apart, okay, is this a loss of interest in everything in my life or most things in my life, or just in sport because the context has changed? Other really common side symptoms are like weight changes, up or down. Clinically, we look for about a 5% change, but it may be a little bit different. We look for changes in sleep. So either all of a sudden I'm not sleeping hardly at all, and I don't feel like I'm tired or I can't sleep, or I'm sleeping all the time and it feels like I can't really stay awake. Fatigue, I think, is another one of the common symptoms that really comes up. One of the other ones that is less well known is just a general sense of worthlessness or guilt that seems to be placed inappropriately. And what that might be is like, oh, my team lost and it's all my fault, and this drill went bad and that's all my fault, and my teacher got angry at the class for not listening and that's all my fault. And really the sense of like, I'm a terrible person and I'm responsible for all these things that objectively I'm really not. But placing that inappropriate guilt is another symptom of depression. Negative changes in concentration are another big hallmark of depression, particularly because we're getting a little bit more detached. We're feeling a little bit more hopeless. We're feeling a little bit more fatigued. Then it's much harder to kind of stay engaged and stay on track and kind of concentrate with what's happening. And then thoughts of death or suicide are other symptoms of depression, especially at the clinical level.